This is the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, check out our friends at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. You also want to eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50 off. When you get there, use the code Bedard50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. And Noturno, can't forget about them. Noturno Home Services, Greg's home comfort company. If you're looking for a team that puts your comfort first, visit noturnohome.com/Bedard for 10% off your next service. Could save you up to $1,000. All right, so Mike Vrabel, Greg, has the press conference yesterday. We're recording this early Tuesday afternoon. Just your overall thoughts, your general reaction to that press conference and what Vrabel had to say.
My overall impression, Nick, was, and this is no slight to Jerod Mayo, who clearly wasn't ready for the role, but there is now an adult running the New England Football Patriots on the field, and that was much needed. It was a breath of fresh air. His press conference was a complete 180 from Mayo's press conference, and where, and we even pointed this out at the time, and that was my reaction to Mayo. It was like, all right, where's the beef? I have no clue what he stands for. I have no clue what he believes in. I have no clue where this football team is going. And then ultimately, guess what? He didn't either, because that's why it led to the mess that we saw on the field this year. But I thought Vrabel was really good. I didn't think he was, outstanding. I thought he was a little bit wordy at times, but he definitely, where he stands, what he believes in a variety of different areas. I thought he was good on, I thought one of the things that jumped out was where he talked about we're going to earn the right to be here every day. We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. And I think if I had an opportunity and to give people sort of a behind the scenes thing, like I was there raising my hand the entire press conference to ask. I had a couple different things written down that I wanted to ask. Never got called on. It happens. Not a big deal. Plus, mostly everybody hit everything. But I just wonder, did he hear things, from people that he's talked to, like Elliott Wolf and others, the Crafts, anybody else that he met with the Patriots? Did he watch them from afar and studying them and what went on? Because I do think that last year, and I think it went from the coaches down to the players, that I thought there was a distinct lack, or there was a lot of entitlement on this team. And I even railed about it, since the season, about, hearing the coaches on this staff bitching and moaning about what they didn't have and whining and all this stuff. And that's just not the way football works. And your job is not personnel. Your job is to coach the football team, each individual player, the best that you can. And I do not think that went on last year. I think they could have done better than they did, even with a tough roster. I don't think the roster was quite as bad as everybody made it out to be. I mean, when you look at, you look at the regression from the guys that they re-signed, just regression for most. I would say you could take the tight ends out of it, because I think Bob Bignell did a nice job with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. But outside of that, you could look across the board and say there was regression all over the place. And we've been all over the names. And, you look at that, the veterans are having a tough time. Well, what do you expect the rookies to do? And that some of them didn't live up to par as rookies. And, you're just going to put that on personnel and they pick crappy players. I just don't disagree with that. So, accountability is back. A plan, a direction for the football program is back, and that's exactly what the Patriots needed.
When he brought up entitlement, I just thought, yeah, looking at you, Jelani Tavai, looking at you, Javon Baker, looking at you, Jalen Polk, some of the names, some of the things that guys have said, Kayshawn Booty, blaming Drake May for when he drops a pass and it turns into a pick, those kinds of things. I don't think those kinds of things are going to exist in 2025 in that locker room. I don't think Tavai is going to be saying what he said if he's here. I certainly don't think Javon Baker is going to be doing what he's done. And the same thing with Jalen Polk, who can't help himself going to Instagram and posting every other day. I think that stuff is going to be pushed aside. That's not going to exist. And the one thing I will say is, people act as if things falling apart with Jerod Mayo is some kind of vindication for Bill Belichick, not only like on the field and coaching wise, but also handling the locker room. And I get it. Mayo was the complete 180 from Bill. But it doesn't mean you have to still do the job like Bill. And it doesn't mean you have to handle players like Bill. And I see some people and I hear some people talking about, they gotta be super tough on everybody. They got to be super tough on certain individuals. It's a case-by-case basis in my eyes. And I think Mayo just didn't keep anybody accountable. And that was the problem. It wasn't that they were lightening. It wasn't the fact that they were trying to, not be as hard ass or lighten the load on the players. It was the fact that it swung so drastically to the other side where guys were doing and saying whatever the hell they wanted. It was the Wild West. And I don't think that's going to be happening in 2025, which leads me to, Greg, your thought in the email. You said that in many ways that press conference yesterday was the anti-Mayo press conference and Vrabel was anti-Mayo. But you also said that he was anti-Bill. Explain why.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I somewhat knew this about Vrabel, but it sort of dawned on me, listening to him yesterday, and also just to give people a full picture. We also spent a little bit of time with Vrabel this morning. Nothing about what's going on with the Patriots. It was more of a typical sort of introduce yourself to the media, both ways. It's happened a lot, I think, throughout my career. When there's been coaching changes, those things happen. But and he even, Mike even asked, like, we gave him like sort of our background, family and stuff like that, and where we're from and things like that. And I do think that he, from listening to people, he does care about that stuff, and he's going to make the players care about the stuff, and knowing your teammates and knowing the staffers and the people that pick up your laundry or the people that fix your meals in the cafeteria. It's part of who Vrabel is. And that goes to what dawned on me was, look, you had, I think to be fair to Jerod Mayo, I would say, and we heard this at the time, and I think I even mentioned this, Jerod Mayo has a very high emotional IQ, emotional intelligence. He gets people. That's probably his best attribute. Okay, but he was very low on the football as far as his knowledge, being ready for that. Like, he just wasn't ready for the football part. I think he was ready in some respects, certainly to relate to the players and reach some of the players, but lack the football part. Now, Bill Belichick, on the other hand, is a savant in football. And, it's all about, just do your job, and you do your job, you do these things, we're going to be successful, you're going to be successful. And Bill's great at that, but he has no emotional intelligence at all. And he doesn't really care. Stories about him walking by people in the hallway and just grumbling, or not even knowing people were there. And I think Vrabel's like in the middle. I think that Vrabel does have the emotional intelligence. It's not perfect. There are some things that worry me about Vrabel, including, he's a lot like Bill in that they were both only children raised by educators. Sometimes I think he can get a little bit too into his own head and a belief in himself, similar to Bill. But I think that Mike, at his best, and this is the second time around, maybe he's improved. At his best, he has the emotional intelligence, and he approaches Belichick in terms of football and being able to coach all the positions and having input. So I think that he's the if you want to take it, Mayo and Belichick, he's sort of the best of them combined. And I think that gives him a really high ceiling. Whether that happens or not, we'll see. A lot of it's going to have to do with, how he staffs, which is a worry of mine. Can they get the players and up the talent on this roster? But I think in terms of who he is, where he is in his career, he has a high ceiling, in my opinion.
All right, before we get to some of Greg's favorite quotes from Vrabel at his press conference yesterday, Greg wants to get to his favorite site when it comes to his favorite app when it comes to picking more or less, looking at players, and of course, that's Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Love sitting down for the game, making my selections just from that game. I came very close on Sunday to hitting a 6-parter. That would have been nice. I think I was off by 1 or 2, but it was pretty close. It was fun playing along. It's playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. By the way, Nick, I wanted to ask you, because it seemed like from what I saw on Twitter, and I didn't get to watch your Nick Cattles podcast yesterday, but you seemed pretty fired up by the Vrabel thing. What tickled your fancy?
I mean, look, I thought he aced it. I really did. I just think the tone that he set is sharp, clear plan. I thought he hit a lot of the culture stuff out of the park. It wasn't just, broad strokes. He kind of described what culture is to him and how you try to set that as an organization. I just thought a lot of the stuff that he said jumped out at me. And we're going to talk about some of the direct quotes. And I tend to agree with a lot of the quotes that stood out to you that I thought were his best moments. I thought one of his best moments was just want to be good enough to take advantage of bad football. And to me, that was a message to the players of like, look, this is going to be baby steps, man. Like we're not talking about, being a great football team. We're not even talking about being a good football team. We got to start at the very basis of a foundation of a football team. And where we start is, can we get to the point when we play teams that are a disaster, that we actually take advantage of that disaster and we win those games that we should win? And I think there's been a lot of examples, even with Bill, frankly, back in 2023 of certain decisions that he made that you might scratch your head and say, how did that help you win the football game in that moment? And you look back at last year's games, Greg, I mean, as in 2024, the Seattle game, for example, I think the Patriots win that game with Mike Vrabel as the head coach. And It's just, it's taking advantage of bad football. So that was one of those comments. And I know that was one of the comments for you that stood out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I got into with Michael Hawley last night on TV, because he made the point before I got on there saying like last year's Patriots weren't capable of taking advantage of bad football. And I just disagree with that. And this is where people like Mike and Chris Gasper and other people, where I just like fundamentally disagree with them, like when it comes to football. And, maybe it's different in other sports. I don't really care about other sports. I worry about football, and I've been analyzing football for, I was thinking about talking to Vrabel today. I mean, I've been covering the NFL in some form since 2001 and full time for 20 years. And football at its basis, especially what Mike's talking about, like talent and being able to win games or just survive or stay in games. Talent doesn't have anything to do with that. Not if you're a well-coached team. If you have if you have good schemes, if the offensive coordinator realizes, you know what, our tackles aren't going to hold up today. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to try to pop a few plays here and there, but for the most part, we're just going to try to keep falling forward and pushing ahead, playing field position, all that stuff, to coaches instilling a discipline in the team where we're not going to do, as Vrabel, I think, is prone to say, we're not going to do stupid shit. Like, and if you do stupid shit, you're going to sit down, like fumbling the football, like false starting, and, or, pulling horse collars 3 times in a season. When you have a competent coaching staff, when you have a competent head coach, especially, where the Patriots are right now, like it doesn't take that much to get competitive. And it's a lot of it's about discipline.
Yeah.
And the Patriots completely lacked that last year. Yes, they weren't talented, but the lack of discipline, the lack of proper coaching is really what did the team in. There's no reason why. I mean, you mentioned the Seattle game. I mean, the Snoop Huntley Miami game. Are you kidding me? Mason Rudolph, the Titans. Like, there were plenty of other examples where, the Patriots, could have won games and they didn't. Why? It wasn't because they were less talented. It's because they were stupid and they just played poorly. And
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the focus and that's the basis. And he even said, that's what I've tried to tell all the players is right now, I don't know if we're good enough to take advantage of bad football. I'm unsure. Right now, they're not because of how they got coached. But that's what, Nick, what we were sort of talking about all year with Mayo and that coaching staff was, all right, fine. I understand where you are, but get to a place. Let me see you start making progress like the Carolina Panthers did at the end of the season. And so, I thought that was a really good comment. It's a great place for this team to start. And that's what we should be judging them on next year, and we will.
There were these stretches in games this past year which were just inexcusable. Things happening where it's just like, why? Like, how can it be this bad? There was the stretch in London against Jacksonville when you get an early lead and you're feeling good, and then they literally just blow you off the field, and it looks like you're not even an NFL outfit, right? There was the stretch against the Rams where Matthew Stafford is literally laughing at you, holding up 0 as in cover 0. I knew you were going to run that defense, making a mockery of DeMarcus Covington. There were all these stretches. There was the
game.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Colts game and that game-winning drive for them and the 2-point conversion where they just literally walked over to your sideline and dropped their foot across your neck, and you could do absolutely nothing about it when you knew they were trying to do what they were trying to do. There were just too many stretches this year. The humiliating loss against the Chargers, where it's like, why even show up on that Saturday? Too many of those. And that's the difference. I don't think anybody is arguing with Michael Holley about the level of talent. I think we all see that the talent isn't good enough. I think we all see that there were mistakes made. But at the end of it, when you look back to the season, it's, were you competitive enough? And you just weren't. You got humiliated time and time again. And I think you could have been even more humiliated if teams wanted to humiliate you. You go back to Drake May's first start against the Texans. The Texans pretty much at halftime were like, all right, this game's over. We're not worried about it. The Buffalo Bills, if they wanted revenge in that final game, instead of just, resting guys and really trying to lose to hurt your draft slot. I mean, imagine what that would have looked like in the revenge game after, they kind of dicked around in the first half in Buffalo. Like, it was bad. It was bad, and it's talent and it's coaching. I thought another thing that stood out to me was the difference between interesting and important. I thought that was really good, Greg. And the reason why I thought it was really good, it's because to me, it's let's focus on attention to detail. Like, what helps you win football games and what doesn't help you win football games. Going on a podcast might be an interesting thing to do, but if you say something stupid, it hurts us. And really, is it important to go out there on IG and share your feelings with the world? Like, I guess you could have an interesting post on IG like Jalen Polk did with the black sheep, But is that important to us? Is that important to you? Is that important to the program? Is that important to winning? And I think Vrabel's going to draw that line, Greg, between, hey, look, we can have some fun. You can do your stuff and you can say some things, but you've got to understand the balance of what is something interesting and what is something important. And we have to first and foremost focus on what is important if we want to be a serious football program.
Yeah, that was I thought that was good. Another part that that I really liked was just, and I went back to Mayo's press conference last year, and I even searched through it to find certain phrases that were there or not there. And Vrabel said we're going to demand effort and finish. People ask what our non-negotiables are. Our effort and our finish is going to be the contract that we make with our teammates. And I look back, and there was also talk about techniques and fundamentals. None of that stuff was mentioned in Jerod Mayo's press conference, which, was perplexing to me about I just went away from it thinking I have no idea where this guy stands as far as football, what he believes in, what are the things that are important to him that are going to be important to his football team. And he didn't know, he couldn't provide that last year. And Vrabel did that in spades on Monday.
Yeah. And I don't think, look, acing a press conference doesn't make you a great coach. Just like bombing a press conference doesn't make you a bad coach. I said that stuff last year at Mayo's introductory press conference. Coaches have had plenty of bad introductory press conferences, but, some of them figure it out. Dan Campbell had his memorable, wacky intro press conference. He figured it out. Adam Gase had his crazy eyes press conference, and he never figured it out. So you can't draw a straight line from press conference to the product. But I think what Vrabel was talking about landed with a lot of people because it's a lot of things that we wanted to hear after what happened in 2024. We'll get to more of that. But first, Greg, tell the fine people about Game Time.
Yeah, Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You get seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. I have to have that. I was just looking, if you wanted to get to the Celtics game against the Magic on Friday, you can get in for all in. I think minimum is $138, which is pretty good for Celtics tickets. So go check them out there over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Before we get to the front office, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the front office and Elliott Wolf, one more thing that you mentioned in the email about Vrabel's press conference is that when he was talking about offense, it was different this time around than it was during his Tennessee press conference. Why is that?
Yeah, I went back and looked at his press conference in Tennessee, and well, let me make that point after. Basically, he said we're going to run the ball. He was high on that. I was looking for the direct quote because I sent it to Felger and Maz for the show today. Oh, he said when he was introduced with the Titans, he said, I think that we're going to run the football. We're going to run it from the quarterback being under center. We're going to run it from the quarterback being in gun. They had Marcus Mariota at the time. Those are all things we believe in, but we're going to run the football and we're going to do it from different ways, different backfield alignments. And, there was no talk of running the ball in his Patriots press conference. It was basically about the quarterback, protecting the quarterback. You need to do that. You need the scheme. You need all that stuff. I mean, what he said about that stuff and what I loved, because I've been harping on this all year. This year is just about what did he say? He said, but again, it will be based on what the players can understand and what they can handle. We're not going to put in things that make them slow. And, basically what he's saying is, this isn't gonna. We're not just gonna run offensive plays or script stuff up because it looks good on a whiteboard and we think like this is great, and without thinking about the first thing that you have to ask as a play caller, as a game planner is, can we run this shit? Like, are we capable of executing this? Can DeMontre Jacobs make this cut block against this player in this situation?
Right.
Yes or no? If he can't, well, don't ask him to do it. And then when it gets blown up and causes a big turnover, don't be surprised. And so, I thought that was really smart and a departure from last year's coaching staff where I just looked at it like, basically they're not going to run before they can walk with this coaching staff. And that's the way it was with Bill, for a long time, especially when Josh McDaniels was here. There, you could do it by clockwork that you're like, all right, the Patriots are scuffling on offense. I could guarantee you what they're going to do next game is come out, just go back to basics, do the simple shit and do that, and then go on from there. And that never happened last year. Didn't happen often enough or consistent enough. And so I was excited to hear that because that goes along with a lot of my beliefs.
Before he talked about the non-negotiable of effort and finish, here's what he said. You can't tell the difference between a player that's afraid to do it or doesn't know how to do it. And I'll give you one guess, Greg. When I heard that quote, you can't tell the difference between a player that's afraid to do it or doesn't know how to do it. Which player do you think popped in my head immediately?
Jalen Polk.
Absolutely. When I heard that quote, I was like, that is Polk, standing around, being late off the snap on the ball, being in the wrong spot at the wrong time, just looking lost. And so, but when you look at what Vrabel's trying to say there is, it's not because he might be afraid to do something. It's just he probably doesn't know how to do it, and you're asking him to do it. And so he's uncomfortable, and that creates some mental anxiety. He also said this, Greg, to Greg Hill this morning on EEI. He was asked about being a run first and run only guy. And here's what he said. I typed it up. I might miss a word or two, but our best player, because he was, and this is something I've been saying for weeks. Yeah. He ran the football a lot in Tennessee. He had Derrick Henry. So here's what he said. Our best player was our running back. We tried to structure the offense. We tried to build the offense around who we thought was our best player and our strength. We threw it just as successfully as we ran it. We were good in the red zone. I thought we were creative. You base whatever system and scheme you have on the players you have. I do think there's a lot of versatility from not only myself, but hopefully from the coaches that we hire. So if you are concerned that Vrabel's going to walk in here and they're going to run the ball 45 times every single week, I don't think so. Between that comment to Greg Hill and the Greg Hill show this morning, on top of, what he said yesterday in calling Drake May a dynamic quarterback, I'm just guessing that Vrabel's going to look at this and say, okay, we can open some things up here. It's not going to be a ground and pound offense week in and week out.
Yes. But also, if Mike that week looks at the opponent and thinks they have an advantage, or he sees it during the game where the Patriots are killing them on the inside and they're not holding the opponent isn't holding up the double teams and they are owning the line of scrimmage, you better believe he's going to run the crap out of the ball and be just fine with it. And I just think that rarely happened with this last group, but I do think that, all the people, Nick, and I know we've heard of them either in calling into Sports Talk Radio or on Twitter, like, when he talked about Vrabel to be like, well, his offenses weren't very good. All he did was run the ball. Even when I talked to Bill O'Brien the other day about Vrabel, I asked him about Vrabel and having that sort of mentality in Tennessee. And even Bill O'Brien was like, he had King Henry. I mean, what the hell? The Ravens just ran the crap out of the ball in a playoff game, because they have King Henry to go along with Lamar Smith. And so, absolutely, I'm totally with you on this, that, whatever advantage Mike thinks that week that the Patriots are going to have offensively, defensively, and special teams, they are going to press it. They're going to utilize that. And if that's throwing it 50 times a game, he'll do that. If it's running it 50 times a game, he'll do that as well.
By the way, Greg knows that it's Lamar Jackson and not Lamar Smith. He just kind of went back in time for a minute. He went back.
I did that. That was Lamar Smith was the. I'm a little nostalgic. Thinking about how long I've been covering the league. I was there when Lamar Smith ran for like 200 yards for the Dolphins in their last playoff victory in 2001. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, and to go off your point, though, that's why I say he's not going to do it week in and week out. But if he knows a rush defense, if a run defense is terrible and they're going to give you 200 yards on the ground, then, yeah, you're going to run the football that week. And to go off your Ravens point, I tweeted that during the game to try to take a little bit of a jab at the people that are like, oh, running the football, the Ravens in that playoff game ran 13 straight times on a touchdown drive. They ran it 13 between Jackson and Henry. They ran 13 straight times and scored a touchdown. So does that touchdown not count? Is that not an effective drive because they ran the football? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? All right, before we get to the GM situation, sorry, Robert, we don't use the GM title in New England. Before we get to the front office situation, Greg, let's get to the Factor Meals situation.
Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. Based on a randomized control clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. I get the Keto ones. They're freaking delicious. The sauces are off the charts. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50off and use code Bedard50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Bedard50off at factormeals.com/Bedard50off to get 50% off plus free shipping in your first box.
Some people made a big deal about this. What'd you make of the many mentions of Elliott Wolf during the presser?
Not much. These things tend to happen when you get in these situations. This is my read on it. Do I think that Elliott Wolf has the possibility or the potential to be in charge of personnel for the Patriots for multiple years? Yes, I think there's a possibility because I do think that there's a feeling that this past year, for various reasons, he was not allowed to fully invest in his job. For example, he wasn't even at the GM winter meetings. They sent Matt Groh. Was that because Elliott Wolf was busy with things internally and helping things? Could be. But I do think I read it as this, and you get this a lot with a lot of NFL teams. I do think that the Crafts really like Elliott Wolf and his staff and the plans that they had. I think that they feel that he wasn't able to fully implement them. This first season with it was obviously we know about Mayo's shortcomings. The staff, Wolf had to do a lot of work on the staff, the staffing, and all that stuff. So I do think it's the Crafts preference. And I remember hearing this about a couple other jobs or sort of transitions that I've covered. The owners basically go to the new head coach and say, like, I understand that you have your ideas and this is what you want to do, but do me a favor for the first year, like give these guys a tryout. Like, see, just do us a favor. I think, talk to this guy. I think he's got some good ideas. Do that. And I'm sure Vrabel said, yeah, absolutely. And we've heard him talk about Elliott Wolf and all that stuff. Now, he also, at the very same time, as he's getting introduced, Mike Vrabel's bringing in Ryan Cowden into the personnel department, his own guy. And so, to me, look, it could work gangbusters where everybody gets along, everybody's doing their thing, and it's all of a sudden they realize like the synergies here, like we're kicking ass, like let's keep going with this. Could happen. The odds aren't great, but the more likely thing is what you see is they'll go through this. Vrabel says, absolutely, Robert, whatever you want, I'll do this, blah, blah, blah. But really, he knows at some point in time, it's going to be him and Cowden running things. And it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, before that happens. Does that mean everybody in the department goes? No. Who knows? Maybe Elliott only has one more year left on his deal. He stays on through here. But at the end of the day, everybody's involved in discussions. But it's really Vrabel and Cowden going behind closed doors and being like, this is what we're going to do. So I think Vrabel's very smart. He's playing the game. How long that game lasts, we'll have to see.
Totally agree with you. When I was watching that press conference yesterday, to me, people were just paying attention to him saying Wolf's name. Like, okay, Elliott Wolf just interviewed him. Elliott Wolf is his go-to guy right now when it comes to the football operation, and he's talking about these players. So he brought up Elliott Wolf 5 or 6 times. Okay, great. He gave a bunch of non-answers when he was asked about the roster construction and control and collaborating. He was asked directly, Greg. He was asked directly who has say on personnel. He did not answer that question directly. He didn't say Elliott Wolf has the final call. I have the final call. He left it open-ended. He said things like, these decisions will sort themselves out. He mentioned, he went even to go as far as talking about that nothing had been finalized when he was asked about Cowden. He said, Elliott and I will have conversations as it relates to the staff. Nothing has been finalized. Nothing has been determined. And he also said, as with many staff, there's going to be turnover. I did not hear any commitment from Mike Vrabel to Elliott Wolf in regards to Elliott Wolf having the call. None of it. And he was asked question after question. He was on Zoe and Beetle. He was asked about Elliott Wolf. Listen closely to what he says. He says, I think the vision him and I both have, the communication, again, what Greg just said, Robert wants collaboration. He loves the idea of communication and having a vision together. He says, I think the vision him and I both have, the communication, allowing him to find us great players. And then he says, and for us to come to an agreement about how we add them. So I read that as, yeah, Elliott's going to do more legwork than I'm going to be able to do. But at the end of the day, Elliott's going to come to me and we're going to have a conversation and we're going to have to agree on if we want the player or how we want that player. I don't think anything, Greg, is going to happen without Vrabel and Cowden being on board with it. And that's ultimately what people have to be worried with. There's no way on God's green earth. You know Elliott Wolf better than I do. You know Mike Vrabel better than I do. But let's just look at the personalities, folks. Well, let's look at Elliott Wolf when he was with the media last year at camp. Nervous, kind of fidgety. There's been reports from Andrew Callahan that he doesn't put his foot down with his staff at times. Greg, you said that is true, that he's not really a guy, that's going to walk in and have that confidence right out the gates. And then you look at Mike Vrabel, who's walking in, chest out, proud as a peacock. Do you really think that when those 3 guys are in the room and they're having a conversation about drafting a player, that if Elliott Wolf says, I want Travis Hunter, and Vrabel and Cowden go, we don't want Travis Hunter, do you honestly believe, people, that Elliott Wolf's going to go, well, tough shit, I'm drafting Travis Hunter? What are we doing here? To me, it's like, it's just people getting worked up. They have this trigger in their head when Elliott Wolf is brought up.
It's unbelievable, like how, a certain show in the afternoon yesterday, by the end of their show, they made it out like, Elliott Wolf and potentially Josh McDaniels or Benedict Arnold's and and now people react to They basically think that Elliott Wolf is the devil because Jalen Polk didn't have a good rookie season, or Elliott Wolf whiffed on the left tackle. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you still need an experienced front office staff. And Elliott Wolf right now, considering the coaching staff is gone, or I imagine most of them are, probably some of them are still in the building. Some of them are trying to get other jobs and things like that. He's invaluable as far as being like, hey, this is why we drafted the guy. This is what went on last year. This is his weakness. This is his strength. And then, even going forward, you look at the Hard Knocks with the Giants. How many people were in Joe Shane's room when they're talking about what to do with Saquon Barkley? There's like 6 people in there. But at the end of the day, the GM those discussions are going to be going on in Vrabel's office or in a room where Vrabel's in charge, because I fully believe that Vrabel is getting final say at the end of the day, and Mike's going to listen to everybody. At the end of the day, who do you think he's going to listen to? The guy he took about 5 minutes to bring in with him. I mean, so everybody needs to calm the freak down about Elliott Wolf. It's just gotten completely out of hand. And I even said this to Felger in the email exchange. I was like, holy hell, it's going to be a long offseason until they actually do something. I mean, I guess the coaching hires will distract people, and then they'll go right back to hammering Elliott Wolf until they actually get some new players in here, even though it's really Vrabel and Ryan Cowden.
2 things. I just ask you a simple question, not you, Greg, you generally and the people, before we get to the OC quickly. I asked this question on my podcast yesterday, the Nick Cattles Show, YouTube channel. Check it out. Why do you think Ryan Cowden's here? Like, what are we doing? Like, Cowden had a job with the Giants. Okay. He had a contract with the Giants. He was employed by the Giants. Why do you think he leaves that job to come here to New England? If he doesn't have significant say, if it's not him and Vrabel getting together and having these conversations, like, what are we doing? Cowden's not going to leave the Giants just to show up here and be like, I'm going to kick up my feet and enjoy some cheese and crackers while you guys do the draft. Cool. Burt Breer said that he's the number 2 guy, which isn't great for Matt Groh, because Elliott Wolf said last year that Groh was the number 2 guy. But just think with common sense. If Cowden is the number 2 guy, Vrabel's the number 1 guy, really, above Elliott. Elliott Wolf's not going to, outrule those 2 guys. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And one more point before we get to the OC, the collaboration stuff, Greg, I'm so tired of it. People mock it. And here's the truth. Everybody in the NFL collaborates. Everybody. There's not one single person in this league that has full ironclad control as the head coach of the roster. And if you say Kyle Shanahan, Burt Breer will fight you on that. He says John Lynch has the 90-man roster. Then Shanahan has control of the 53. There's no Bill Belichick's in the league anymore. Andy Reid is not walking in and making all of the decisions. Like, there's a collaboration. All collaboration means is, like Greg just said about the Giants, you get into the room and you bounce ideas off each other and say, what do you see in this guy? What you don't see in this guy? Every team does it. Bill did it when he was here. He talked to people. Collaboration is talking with people. It's all it is. Settle down, please, everyone. Settle down. All right, before we get to the OC, let's get to Noturno, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to keeping my home comfortable this winter, there's nothing more important than having a reliable team to handle things like heating, cooling, and plumbing. That's why I'm so glad I worked with Noturno Home Services. These guys are local. They are family-owned and family-focused and have been servicing the greater Boston area for 15 years. These guys, talk about timeliness. Let me break it down. I called for my free estimate, and I was booked the next day with their comfort advisor. I had a detailed proposal with 3 different options that very day. Got them the deposit on a Friday. The site inspection was on Monday, and installation was Thursday. That's a week from soup to nuts. Incredible. Plus, I didn't have to wait for anybody. When I called, somebody picked up and actually didn't say, I'll call you back. They actually just picked up and got stuff done. That kind of service just doesn't happen with other companies. They were on time, professional, and made the entire process stress-free. I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Noturno isn't just about heating. They're my go-to for plumbing, cooling, even water and air quality solutions. They've got the expertise to handle whatever your home needs. Here's the best part. You can get 10% off your next service with Naturno. That could save you up to $1,000 on your next project. Just visit naturnohome.com/Bedard for all details and conditions. That's NOTTURNO home.com/Bedard. Take advantage now. These deals won't last forever. Trust me, having a team like Naturno Home Services in your corner makes all the difference. Whether you need to make a quick repair or major installation, they'll get the job done right. Check them out today. I trust Naturno. You should too.
Don't forget, not only about Naturno, but BSJ, $50 the year. Bedard, Jerod do great work. Prize Picks app. Use that app today and use the code CLNS, $50 instantly when you play $5. Factor Meals, we talked about those guys. Factormeals.com/Bedard50 off. Use that code Bedard50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. And then you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. CLNS is the code for $20 off your first purchase. Quickly, Greg, OC search. What are you hearing?
Not much. I'm sort of in the same place I have been, and it was confirmed by Vrabel. It sounds like they're going to talk to a bunch of different people, including Josh McDaniels. I think Tommy Rees is on the list. We'll have to see how the process goes. They have to go through a process due to the Rooney Rule. It's not as expansive or steadfast as the head coaching search or GM search. But I will say, and we'll probably expound on this on Thursday, how Vrabel staffs is one of my big worries. I do not think that was a strength of his in Tennessee. I don't think he got along great with LaFleur. He sort of fell into Arthur Smith, who had been there on staff, sort of inherited and struck gold a little bit. I don't think that was really about Vrabel really seeing a lot in Arthur Smith. His offensive line coaching was sort of a disaster the entire time there. He's got a lot of work to do, and I hope he gets it right. I think it's a great staff is vital. I think everybody knows where I stand. I would love Josh McDaniels to be back. I think he's really good. He takes there's no guesswork. You know exactly what you're going to get. You know the coach, Drake May, is going to get coached up the way he needs to. He's going to get developed. I would love to see, there's been a lot of talk about Tommy Rees from the Browns. You probably have stuff to say about him since he was the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, former Notre Dame quarterback. He's never coached quarterbacks at the NFL level. I'm sure, he'd do a good job, but man, that's a lot that if it doesn't work with an unproven guy, all of a sudden now, May's on his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. I would love to see if this can work, and I don't even know if it can, Josh McDaniels and Tommy Rees together. Tommy Rees is sort of the quarterback coach, sort of learn from Josh McDaniels, sort of, bring some of the college concepts, help Josh with that, adapt the Patriots playbook a little bit to the college game. Like, I think that would be awesome in a way to go. Whether that could ever work, I'm not sure, but that's sort of where I am right now.
I'm sure we'll have a lot more on this later in the week because names will be popping up. Vrabel told EEI this morning that he's going to start interviewing OC candidates this afternoon. So we should be getting some names over the next 48 hours. Greg's going to go to Felger and Maz. Wish him luck. Pray for him. If you're into praying, pray for Greg. Hope for the best. He might not come out of this one well. We'll see how it goes. We'll talk to you later in the week. That'll do it for now. Bye-bye.